Extreme here with G.I. Joe statue number 3 of 4. So hopefully you guys caught the reviews of Destro and Storm Shadow. If you haven't, go back and check those out while we go ahead and get started with this big mother behemoth. Extreme Collectibles here with Prime 1 Studios quarter scale Serpentor statue from the G.I. Joe line. G.I. Joe, part of my growing up, great American heroes. So I have a display case dedicated to my childhood cartoon nostalgia, which you guys probably know about if you've watched this channel before. We have G.I. Joe, we have Masters of the Universe, Thundercats, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So here is a shot of Serpentor with the other pieces. And I'm really nervous because I haven't seen this yet, so as usual, you guys are going forward in time. He weighs so much, so I'm really worried about the weight. But I hope it looks good too, obviously. So one more spot for snake eyes on there. I might have to move some stuff around. We'll see how that goes. Getting some in my eye. Anyway. Made by Prime 1 Studios, my current favorite licensed company right now, and they're just killing it. They're man, really got something in my eye. See, I don't edit shit out, so you're gonna have to watch me rub my eye. Better than watching me rub something else, I guess. But they made 350 of the exclusive statue, and I don't know how many of the collector's edition they made because it didn't say on their website. This is the exclusive, so one of 350. The only difference between the exclusive and the collector's edition is every single statue comes with this portrait that you see right here. But the exclusive that I have comes with an additional switch out portrait. He's a little more fierce. I went ahead and purchased him directly from Prime 1 Studios website, and believe it or not, using their economy shipping, so it took 3 months, it cost me $38 to have this shipped, and it was 2 huge boxes. $38. That just blows my mind. But number of pieces to them. So first of all, the base is 1 piece, and these exploding parts, I think there's 5 different parts that come out, like yay. And extremely strong magnets, which is nice. The glider, minus the front pedestal, the 2 guns, and the wings on the side, is 1 piece. Serpentor, minus his wrist and hands on each side, the 2 snakes, his portrait, and his cape are all different pieces. Went together really easy, came with big instructions. There was some issues with the design on the cape we are going to discuss. And initially I didn't think I was going to display him with the cape because he looked really cool without it, but he looks much cooler with the cape. Retail cost is $8.99 and $9.49, $50 more if you go for the collectors. And the size on this guy is massive. He is almost twice as big as the other G.I. Joe statues. But we're talking almost 25 plus inches wide. We're talking 20 inches deep. And he is over 32 inches high. For exact dimensions, go to Prime 1 or Sideshow's website. Sideshow distributed some of these for Prime 1 before they had their nasty divorce. But G.I. Joe, classic part of growing up. I loved it when Serpentor came in. And as I remember it, Serpentor kind of dethroned Cobra Commander. Side note, I hope Prime 1 makes a Cobra Commander. And he was the badass. I remember having the little G.I. Joe Hasbro figures with all the articulation points. I wore him out because he was my favorite character to play with. Just an absolute badass piece, and I'm glad they made him. I can't believe they haven't made Cobra Commander. I would think he would come before Serpentor. But really, really cool piece. So that's some of the background info. Let's dive right into the concept and design for this. I think They hit it spot on. So first of all, his glider that he's using isn't always used, but I do remember some significant scenes with that. So starting at the bottom, they have the classic base. Each of them kind of has a different theme base, but they all have the Cobra or G.I. Joe symbols. And underneath that is the explosion, and it's really unclear if this explosion is the glider taking off, if he's flying over the explosion, what's going on, because typically a glider would just release white smoke. Then he has his glider fully decked out with big guns on the sides, in the front, which makes sense because Cobra was really big into arms. That's why Destro helped them. And he is on top leading his troops, showing he's the master, the leader of Cobra, and he's looking extremely badass. So I think it's a really, really cool concept. I think the size is a problem. I don't know how he scales next to the other figures. You guys already saw how that was. I haven't seen it yet. So I think that could be an issue. Design issue-wise, the weight is just so much. I think that is another big issue. It feels like the entire thing is polystone, which at least we know it's secure. And then his cape was a nightmare to get on. So his cape had 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different wires actually coming out of the top of the cape. So the wires that go in the cape, and you had to shove the wires into his body. Here's a picture, and it looks okay on this picture, but it was much harder than you would think. That's what she said. So I think a few design issues. The magnets down here are pretty strong, but up here his arms are not very strong at all. So I noticed when I was trying to put the cape on, I had these, and these were tipping really easy. So be careful around that. I think it's too big. It's just too big. She said that too. Man, they're all over today. So that's a flaw in the design, you know. I mean, not a lot of people are going to want a G.I. Joe collection by any means. So we'll see how it looks with the rest. You've already seen it, so I don't know if it looks stupid or not. But let's move into the paint and sculpt on this. And this is where Prime 1 always shines. And kind of as a spoiler, this is the third statue. So I've done Destro, I've done Storm Shadow, we're doing Serpentor now. I also have Snake Eyes coming. I think he is better than Destro, but not as good as Storm Shadow. You saw how I raved on that Storm Shadow review. If not, go check it out. Hashtag shameless plug. But starting at the bottom here, so, you know, it's interesting. It almost looks like maybe snake scales on the top there. So it's this metallic base. It's not shiny, it's not dull, it's somewhere in between. Looks okay. And just like on the last base, I think they could have done with this about an inch or inch and a half shorter. Then they have the Cobra symbol on the front, and the paint job is okay. There's some speckled black in behind the darker metal. The metal's a little bit darker than the metals on the side we were just looking at, and it's kind of this snake tail with spikes all around the side, which is kind of neat, something different. Then the explosion here, the concept's cool, but the execution's just okay. So you see some chunks of some rubble and metal and other parts inside of it that look okay. It looks good, but I just don't like how this is blowing up. I'm comparing this to fire that Sideshow makes. You know, their Deadpool Heat Seeker is fabulous. XM Ghost Rider looks better than this. I'm not sure if it's the colors I'm not a fan of or the sculpt, but it's interesting. It's not great, but it's not bad. It almost looks like some type of overcooked food, like burnt cauliflower. Yeah, I wish it would have been different down here. Moving up to his glider, I really like the colors throughout his glider. So it's this gold with black all over it, kind of dirty black. Maybe it's from the exhaust of it. And it has different prints all over it, telling you, caution gun, no step, then different numbers on there. And then the front exhaust ports look awesome. Great paint job on it, very dirty, the vents on the inside. Some tarnished metallic colors in there. Then moving up the front of the pedestal, our control panel on the front here. Again, same tarnishment, a few different brown pieces on the side. Then the Cobra head, it doesn't look too badass. I like the fact there's a gun inside. I wish I would have made this a little more badass. And it's a little bit darker gold than the rest of the glider. Then just over here near the guns, on the guns, you see a lot of cool detail that they put into it. switches and pedals and, you know, hasps. Looks neat. Really cool part of the piece. And then on the back here you have kind of the exhaust fan. It's mostly covered when his cape's on there, so it's not a huge thing, but then looking at Serpentor, so he is completely armored out, and I remember this costume looks very accurate to what I remember, but I don't know if it was quite as armory or metallic. But it's these basic gold colors, little bit different gold color than the glider, but not too much, and then green all over. And what's neat, you see he kind of has these straps on his boots. The straps, the brown straps, don't look that good. Usually Prime 1 does much better. I do like that there's the kind of the snake coils coming around his calves. And then again, as you get to his knee, almost kind of this armory type feel. And same effect as you move up, this green aspect over his thighs. And then he starts getting into almost Egyptian-like. So it reminds me of Tuts and Pharaohs, which is, you know, ties into some of Serpentor's history. And there's some cool texture on this back dress, but it's not too obvious, in different layering, and then these gold straps with the buckles. Very interesting. His belt is, again, very snake-like. His upper torso is really cool, so kind of has these snake-like scales all over the front. These armored scales. Again, it's kind of some faded gold with some black. And then he has almost look like fish scales on the side. Or more snake scales. True snake scales, not armored snake scales. Almost makes you think it's not an armored part of the uniform. The snakes that he has around him, and I remember this from the comics and the cartoon, look great. I think they did a great job, good texture. I like the expression on the snakes' faces. Because they were real, if I remember correctly. And then looking at his arm, so his upper arm where his biceps are, kind of this weird gold chainmail that's really darkened, and nowhere else on his costume is like this. And then it goes down to his wrist gauntlets, kind of this armorized high-tech stuff with gold and green and silver and different layering. And that same thing follows where his hands are. Good sculpt on his hands, these armored gloves, green and gold. And then jumping to his cape, I really like his cape actually. It looks really good. I like it hanging. I'm not going to try and pose it any other way so it doesn't fall out. But big fan, like the texture. It's a little bit different green color than his armor, so it adds contrast to the statue. And lastly, his portrait here. So first looking at his helmet, you know, he has that Cobra helmet, you know, very Serpentor-like. Serpentor for serpent, obviously, with these beady red eyes on top. And the ears or hood of the Cobra is a little bit offshoot gold than everything else. And then his face. His face looks good. I like the skin colors they use. There's good sculpt to the face. Everything's sculpted. The eyebrows, the teeth. It's a good face. It's not amazing. So overall, I think the real big advantage to this statue is just the overall presence of it. It really makes it a huge winner. And it's interesting to me that Storm Shadow, I believe, was the first piece they released, and it was the best. And it's kind of gone downhill a little bit since then, at least in my opinion. It's still a really good statue for the price I got for, I mean, this is bigger than Batman Hush. So, and it's a quarter scale piece. So good price on it. I like it a lot. Hopefully, I'm really worried about the weight. I wish it was smaller. She didn't say that. So let me know what you think about this. Let me know what your favorite G.I. Joe character is. I don't think I asked that in the last two G.I. Joe videos. If I did, I apologize. But it's way past my bedtime and it's Friday night. And that is the best time of the week. If you are off on the weekends. And I'm semi-off. I have to man my phone nonstop. But when you're just going to sleep and know that when you wake up, I still get up really early. So I'll work out in the morning and actually I got to clean this shit up from all the unboxings this weekend and then film some other stuff. But just rambling on. You can tell I'm tired. So really appreciate you guys watching. Drop me a like. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If you like cool statue shit like this, check out Facebook. A lot of cool statue groups. One I'm an admin of that has 11,000 people. That is a link in my description. Go check that out. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.